So I'm joined here by the Athletics' Jacob Tanswell, a very good friend of mine as well from back in the day. Jacob, you'd be a recognisable face for some people who are watching this, but how are you, mate? Are you doing okay?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, I was on holiday last week, come back, and everything seems to be moving at Southampton. So busy, but yeah, good.
It's certainly an interesting time to be reporting on Southampton Football Club. It has to be said. Just recently announced a new manager and lots of departures
Mm.
as well. One of which we're going to be speaking about today because obviously we're speaking mostly about Liverpool and Romeo Lavia has been a man who's been linked from Southampton to Liverpool this week. Jacob, you've even covered it in a report that Lavia could be heading up to Anfield. But first of all, mate, what sort of player, for those of people who haven't watched Romeo Lavia play,
Mm.
how good is he and what can he do?
I think it's really important we don't, typecast him into a certain position really, because I think when he joined Southampton, there was a feeling that he was a number six, but /8, very athletic, could go box to box. I think as the season's gone on, and I think him adapting into first team football, especially, I think it's really important that everyone sees him as this press resistant number six, probably the closest to the mold of Rodri, really, and you can see why he had that schooling at Anderlecht, and then Guardiola and De Bruyne saw him 2017, 2018, and he went on to Man City. And if it wasn't Man City, he'd probably be in the Premier League for a top six club now. It's the fact that Rodri was in the way that he had to move. He's the only player at Southampton that can receive with his back to goal or receive from the goalkeeper playing through the lines. And Southampton averaged one of the lowest percentage of possession last year, and he thrived in a team that was completely dysfunctional. So yeah, he's probably a number six. He hasn't been able to play on his own at base too often because of the way Southampton play in the midfield too. But I think if he was going to go to a Liverpool or a Chelsea, he'd certainly be the deepest line playmaker.
Absolutely. And this is probably music to Liverpool fans' ears because this already, today, as we're speaking, they've just announced the signing of Soboslai from RB Leipzig. He's someone who I'm very, very excited about. Alexis McAllister, of course, from Brighton, leaving that sort of profile of midfielder. An offensive midfielder in Romeo Lavia. Of course, big shoes to fill in the future of Fabinho. He's still only 29, so it feels like he's about 35. But in terms, you said that he thrived in a dysfunctional team. How do you think that will translate into a team that maybe is a little bit more functional, has a little bit more of the ball? Do you think he can make that transition?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at his and hear about his temperament, he's always been very level-headed. He adapts very quickly. I think I did a piece a couple of weeks ago with one of his Anderlecht coaches, and he said he didn't expect him to. He thought he'd struggle at City. Came during a pandemic, obviously a big step up. Might get lost in the youth system as a lot of players do. But the thing about him is he adapts and and one thing that he said that I really picked up on is it doesn't matter what formation he takes to it so quickly. You can ask him to do a role and he will do it. So I don't think he'll be any different with Jurgen Klopp. The only thing he probably have to learn is probably the physicality and the athleticism side of the game. I don't think technically or tactically there's anything that really phases him or worries him. I think he can hold his own. And if I'm sure you asked me the question, but if you're looking at him against Fabinho, I think he'll probably go past Fabinho within the first couple of months. And I don't know how much money Liverpool have now after signing two players in midfield, but I think for 50 million, which it'll be 45 to 50 million for a 19-year-old, you could get 10 years out of him. I think it's an incredible investment.
Absolutely. In terms of Southampton and the way that they played, what formation do you guys play last season? Was it quite convoluted?
It could have been anything. They had three managers. So I'll just go quickly. I think with Ralph Sargent at the start of the year, he started with the back three. He then did have three midfield at the time. Oriol Romeo played box to box just to make sure Lavia was their number six. So that kind of gives you an idea. Then he went back to the 4-2-2-2, so midfield pivot. Nathan Jones went to a back three, kind of similar. Then Sellers went back to the 4-2-2 again. So constant flipping, constant switching. Lavia didn't really, him and Ward-Prowse were in the middle, but everyone outside of that midfield was just constantly switching. So there wasn't really that relationship you could build. But the way Southampton played was very they would sit largely in a mid block. They would try to press it in spurts, but as soon as they get the ball, they would have to go forward quickly because Lavia's side, they didn't have anyone to keep the ball for long enough. So that's why they kept ceding possession a number of times. So Lavia probably didn't suit him at all, but he still managed to thrive, and I think that's the type of guy he is. And I think it would be really exciting to be in a team that has a structure, a way of playing, and he doesn't have to do everything and spin multiple plates.
Absolutely. In terms of other clubs that could potentially come in for him, obviously you're the athletics reporter for Southampton, so there's probably no one better place to say. What if Liverpool aren't the destination? Will there be other clubs lined up for Romeo Lavia?
Yeah, I think all of the top six have at some point inquired or asked or have watched him. And I know I was speaking to a few scouts early in the season, and they said that Lavia will be gold dust for any top six club, because if he stands out in this dysfunctional team, he'll be fantastic for a higher caliber side. I think right now you're probably narrowing it down to Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea. You don't know what's really happening with Arsenal. Obviously, Declan Rice, how much money they've got to go for another number 6. Thomas Partey, obviously his issues as well in terms of whether he'll go to Saudi Arabia or not. And then Chelsea. The Chelsea factor is probably the thing that Liverpool got to worry about, because Joe Shields is there, who was Southampton's head of recruitment, very close to Lavia's agent, his family. So you probably say that pre-existing relationship could give them an edge if they wanted him. But they made a verbal offer of 50 million in August, 6 weeks after he signed for Southampton. So that interest is there. And they probably do have the funds to do it. So if I had to say, probably between Chelsea and Liverpool, but obviously Arsenal are always going to be in the race as well.
100%. So in terms back to his playing style, what would you say are the noticeable weaknesses or things to improve on for Romeo Lavia?
I think, yeah, as I said, it's not too much technically or tactically. I think it's probably his robustness. He got injured actually against Chelsea in August with the hamstring tear that was out for 6 to 8 weeks. But after that, even when he came back, he was struggling at times to complete games. He would often go down, require treatment, have to go off sometimes, find it difficult to complete games. So I think that's probably part of the course for a youngster coming in debut season, playing 90 minutes every single week. So probably that. I think Ruben Sellis as well, when he came in, he said that Lavia needs to dominate games, and he was referring to his out of possession. He probably didn't put himself out as much as he could, as much as he should, because he's good enough to do that. And then as soon as that press conference finished, in the next, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, Lavia made the most ball recoveries, interceptions, tackles of any midfielder in the Premier League. He's one of the most interception tackles of any teenager as well. And what's interesting, he's been booked more than any other teenager since Lee Cattermole in 2007. So he has found that nasty streak in him. So yeah, I think he's improving that side of his game. It's just probably having the difficulties in playing week in, week out. But I'm sure he could share that role with Fabinho.
Yeah, definitely. Liverpool have another midfielder in their ranks, Stefan Bajcetic, similar age, who had come through last season and had transitioned really from a 6 to an 8. Do you feel like Lavia and him, in those two sort of players who are slightly similar, but then also have transitioned the opposite way, could potentially work together for long term?
I think so. You look at Liverpool, if they want to be a little bit more possession based in terms of, they might not have the energy or the pace to be that high transitioned anymore. Obviously, they hope to be that with recruitment, but if they want to be a little bit better on the ball, I think it'd be a bit more refined. So if you take away James Milner and Jordan Henderson and you bring in Lavia and another midfielder, McAllister, they're probably a bit more press resistant. You could probably play a little work you attacks a little bit slower, have players that can get on the ball and manipulate it. So I think, yeah, they can certainly work together. It's just a question of whether Klopp sees Lavia at number 6, or he thinks that actually he's a really powerful runner. He's got a good eye for goal. He's obviously got sharp feet in small spaces that he could potentially work high up the pitch and in between the lines. But yeah, I think you probably see him in that number 6 role. So it'll be up to the others to push ahead of him.
And finally, mate, I'll ask this question to a couple of lads who I've spoken to about players. Will it happen?
Lavia will go. I don't know where he'll go. I think he will, as I said, between Chelsea and Liverpool. If I had to have a hunch, I'd probably say Liverpool. But again, I don't know their finances. I don't know who will be going. They spent obviously a lot of money relative to Liverpool. So if they've got another 50 million in there, then yeah, it should go on Lavia. But Chelsea are always going to be there, and they've cleared up their midfield decks recently as well. So yeah, I think they could get the deal done, in a short space of time if they wish to pursue that. And Joe Shields will probably be the key factor in that.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Mr. Tanswell, as it always is. I'm sure when Southampton have another starlet in their ranks, he'll be back on. But promote anything you want, my friend.
Not really. Just
Not to promote.
no, just on the Southampton, on the Athletic, and obviously my Twitter as well, which is J_Tanswell. But yeah, all things Southampton, and hopefully all things Lavia as well, regardless of if he goes or not.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Well, if you can go and view Jacob's tweets and you haven't exceeded your limit, please feel free to go and check him out. He's an absolute legend. I'll be back very, very soon with another one of these, or just my own things, because you know what happens. And I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Bye.